Boys, today we have a pretty big flyweight main event coming up this weekend, Moreno versus Usyk, and because of that, I thought, why not make another one of these videos? Today, we're going to go over some flyweight fights that need to happen. I've already done bantamweight. We're going to do flyweight now. Now, just like the bantamweight fights, are these the most realistic fights in the world? No. Some of them, yes, are fairly realistic, but there's a few out here that I believe I have some ranked guys versus unranked guys, like highly ranked guys versus unranked guys. But with that being said, you know, these are all just fun matchups that, if they do happen, would be huge for flyweight. Now, surprisingly, I don't have any championship fights here just because Pantoja has pretty much ran through the division. So a lot of these fights are also going to be like setting up number one contender type of fights as well. I also do not have Moreno or Usyk in this video because they're literally fighting this weekend and it just doesn't make sense to have them here. But for everyone else, I do believe some of these guys are scheduled to fight, but fuck it, call up Dana, call up Hunter, we're canceling some fights. These are the new fights we need to see in flyweight. Let's start off. Number one contender fight, Manel Kape versus Kai France. This would give legitimacy to Pantoja fighting the winner of this. You know, we can't just give Pantoja... I don't want to see Kai France, first of all. I don't want to see it, and we can't really just give Manel Kape just because he would do, you know, bigger pay-per-view numbers than anyone else. However, match these two up, winner, you know, now there's some legitimacy behind it. Now we have a real number one contender. Plus, you know, I'm looking at it mainly in the side of now we can finally get this fight, because if you don't remember, there's some beef between these two. Pretty sure Manel Kape dropped the F slur against Kai France.
All your teammates is a bunch of faggots.
You know, some legendary moments have came from the beef of these two guys, and we need to finally see the fight. We need to see the beef at a press conference. I think this is one of the most hyped up fights you can make at flyweight right now. And skill for skill, very competitive, very fun matchup. You know, I could see... could I see Manel Kape getting knocked out? He does have a pretty solid chin, but Kai France has some decent power for the division. I think this would be a fun fight regardless. And again, we need to start setting up like actual number one contenders and not just feeding Alessandro Pantoja anybody. You know, if they're coming off a few win streaks and they have a big name, fuck it, give it Pantoja. That's pretty much what we've been doing. And now look what we've done. You know, he has no new fights. They're all going to be rematches. Let's go down. I want this next fight just because I want to see like a UFC Japan type of fight. I got Tatsuro Taira, Asakura. You're telling me you don't want to go to Japan? And if we go to Japan, this is probably going to be the main event. This is a perfect main event in Japan. And I mainly just want this fight for the fact that if we have this as a main event, we're most likely going to Japan. Do I think it's going to be the most competitive fight in the world? Probably not. I don't see Asakura being able to stuff or escape Tatsuro Taira's ground game, not gonna lie. So do I see it being the most competitive? No. Are we pretty much sacrificing Asakura? In my opinion, yeah, but I still want to see it because I want to go to Japan. But yeah, this one, that's the only reason I have it here. Moving down, this is a sneaky good fight, and honestly, this might be one of the best fights you can make. Does it make any sense in the world? Absolutely not, because I think I have ranked number 2 versus unranked guy. I got Joshua Van taking on Brandon Royval. You're telling me this wouldn't be one of the best fights you can make at flyweight right now, style for style wise? You know, are we talking about name for name, build up for build up? No. Style for style, and how competitive that fight would be and just how fun it would look on feet and just how fun it would be to watch. This would be one of the best fights you could make. Is it realistic? Absolutely not. Could we see this fight down the line? I could see this fight happening down the line. Right now, no, but again, we're not here trying to make the most realistic matchups. We're trying to make some fun matchups. We're trying to, like the Asakura one, the backstory behind it going to Japan. That's the type of fights we're making. And this would be a huge fight in the flyweight division. Maybe I might be making this a little bit too big than what it actually is. I don't know if like the casual audience really knows Joshua Van like that and knows how dangerous this boy is. But I think for the people who know, they know this would be a huge fight. Moving down, I think, again, is this real? This is a little bit more realistic than the other ones. And again, I think we see a crazy performance out of these two fighters. Andre Lima taking on Charles Johnson. This would be I wouldn't call it a fraud check because Charles Johnson is very good in his own right. But we're either going to see Andre Lima continue going on undefeated or defeating another prospect and going on another run himself. But again, if you know type of matchup. This one is a little bit more underappreciated than the Joshua Van one, just because both these guys are way less known than, Brandon Royval and Joshua Van. But again, if you know, this fight would be crazy. It would be competitive, and I think it would just be fun to watch, to be honest. And that's the main goal of most of these fights, is how fun it would be to watch. Let's go down. I think this fight ends in a finish, and that's very hard to say because, usually flyweight doesn't have the biggest amount of finishing potential, but I guarantee this fight ends in a finish. Two of the hardest hitting and I guess technical strikers, not necessarily technical strikers, but two guys who are used to seeing gain finishes out here. I got Alex Perez, Bruno Silva. Now again, Alex Perez is very highly rated right now. I think he's in the top 10 still, I believe, like 6 or 7. And Bruno Silva, I don't believe is ranked. However, Alex Perez is, I think the last time we saw him, he got his shit snapped up by Tatsuro Taira. But again, I think this fight ends in a finish. I didn't really know who to put Alex Perez with because in my opinion, he's a little bit old and washed at this point. But Alex Perez, Bruno Silva ends in a finish, and I think if this fight actually happened, I would probably pick Bruno Silva to finish Perez just because he's too old at this point, too many miles on the clock. Let's keep moving down though. I feel like this would be a very fun fight too, very competitive, on the feet, on the ground, wherever it goes. I think one of these guys is a future champion. I got Amir Albazi, that's not who I have as a future champion, taking on Ramazanbek Temirov. I got Temirov as a future champion. He's just coming off the win over Charles Johnson, which is huge. I think this would be a huge matchup. Like, again, if a lot of these flyweight fights is, a if you know type of matchup, in my opinion. Maybe it's just because flyweight isn't that big of a division outside of, the people who watch the shitty Apex cards. But again, if you know, this is a good matchup. This is a fun matchup, competitive everywhere, to be honest. I think Temirov is a future champion. I think he gets it done over Albazi, and I don't think Albazi's all that great, to be honest. Let's keep moving down. Probably going to speed run the last 3 of these ones because we're getting pretty long in this video, to be honest. But Loner Kavanagh, he just came onto the scene pretty recently. I think a very fun, competitive fight, and I could see this shit ending out in a knockout, to be honest. Either guy could get the knockout. Alessandro Costa, this dude is pretty underrated right now. I believe both of these dudes might be undefeated. I could be wrong, but I believe they're both undefeated. A great prospect versus prospect fight. I think Costa probably has the power, but Loner Kavanagh, the speed, the accuracy. This shit would be a war. I could see both of them knocking each other out, to be honest. I want to see this one. This is a realistic fight as well, to be honest. They're fairly close in the rankings. Kavanagh coming off that win over Dos Santos, who I have pretty highly regarded as well. And yeah, this would be a fun one. Another fun one that, again, not as realistic. They're a little bit far in the rankings, but I think this would be fun, ground game type of fight. Tagir, Ulanbekov, or Tatsuro. Put this on the Japan card. I think this could be fun. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this. The last one, I just didn't know who to match up the finger victim with. Assu Almabaev. No idea who I should match this dude up with. I was struggling who to put this guy up with. Ronaldo Rodriguez. I didn't know who to put them up with. Same thing with Tatsuro, to be honest. I mean, the Tatsuro Tagir Ulanbekov kind of makes sense and could be fun. This one, I think it could still be fun. I was running out of guys who would make more sense for Almabaev, but I still think that would be fun. Let me know in the comments below. Would you match these guys up a little bit different? These are every big fight that we need to see in flyweight. I pretty much went through the entire division, handpicked the guys that I found were super interesting and that I want to see fight. outside of the champion and Moreno versus Usyk. To be honest, Moreno versus Usyk, no, I don't think I would match those two up, to be honest. I think I would have matched up Usyk with, I don't know now. You know, I like how I have it here. Maybe Usyk with Assu Almabaev. I could see that being fun. And Moreno, I wouldn't be mad seeing Moreno with even like a loner Kavanaugh. You know, it's not the most realistic in the world, but I think this is a good one. I think we already did bantamweight, so featherweight will be up next. We'll probably do that when there's a big featherweight fight on. Maybe we'll do that for Volkanovski, you know, when we're doing the build up for that pay-per-view. But yeah, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.